we start?
that
Yeah.
work day.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order, even though I note from the very beginning, we do not have a quorum yet. We're waiting for at least one more individual, but we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And what I'd like to do is start with this, because we've got a lot of new faces, and we're kind of starting from scratch. I'm the new face sitting up here at the behest of Chairman Bueller with the concurrence of PHCS Chair Tracy Von Bergen. So Pamela Altoff, Chairwoman, again, here because of the appointment. My for real job as of May 31st is nothing. However, the next 5 weeks I am still the Executive Director of the Statewide Trade Association. So that is my for really life. What I'd like us to do is go around the room, kind of explain how we sit here, who we are, and what you do for real. You're next. I went to my left.
I'm Matt Kunkel. I'm on the county board as of December. My for real job is property management and maintenance.
And Matt is also a member of the Public Health and Community Services Committee.
And the Transportation Committee.
And the Transportation.
So I'm Scott Hennings. I'm the Assistant Director of Transportation with the McHenry County DOT. I've been involved with this committee for 10, 11 years because I used to apply for funds through this committee, through this commission. So it's good to be sitting on this side of the table, not the other side. But yeah, we help operate the transit program with PACE here in the county. So we're intimately aware of the transit needs of the residents. So anything I can do to help that conversation through the commission, I'm happy to do that.
I'll get back to you for a second later. I'm Rhonda Goldman, and I'm a Huntley Village trustee, and I was a retired special ed supervisor in Chicago over 17 high schools on the north side, and then I moved to Sun City, and then I went back, and then I'm involved in almost everything in community service organizations. So that's me.
And you're here as a representative from the McHenry County Council
Yeah,
of Governments,
McCaw.
right?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Peggy Hart. I'm a member at large, and I'm in about the middle of my second term, I believe. I was born and raised in Woodstock, and one of the reasons I wanted to be on this commission is I'm a senior. I am now retired after a career in educational publishing and teaching, but I wanted to be able to give back to the community because I had such a great start and a great life when I lived here. As an adult, I traveled all over the country in my job, so I was away for a number of years. When I retired, first thing I did was to move back to Woodstock. I love
Yay.
that.
I'm Mary Reed. I am the current vice chair until it changes maybe later today. I have actually been on this commission since day one. So I've been on it, I'm appointed through the Housing Authority. I used to I did over 20 years working for Head Start, which is where I was working when I first came on the commission. I'm now a caregiver for grandchildren and also part-time at the McHenry Parks and Rec. That's me.
I am Paula Jensen, and I used to serve on the county board, I think 12 years. And I served on the Senior Services Grant Commission, and I formerly chaired it in Pam's role. I am semi-retired, but I'm still very busy. I am on the board of directors of the Area Agency on Aging, which is called Age Guide, and I'm of course on the executive board of that very large organization. I think we have we oversee $38 million, and I'm the liaison to the mental health board. I serve on other variety of boards and commissions. Prior to that, I spent 30 years in the not-for-profit world as an executive director.
Thank you. Good. Bianca?
All right. So I'm not sure really where you want to touch right now, since we don't really have the whole quorum. Or...
No, what I'm doing is introduce
Oh,
yourself, because there are
okay.
people that don't know who
Sorry,
you are.
I'm Bianca Gonzalez. I've been here with the county for about 4 years. So I am recently going to be taking over the the Senior Service Grant Commission, I've been collecting all of the agency's financials and going through them and making sure that they get paid.
Faith Taylor, Senior Community Development Specialist, also with Community Development Division. Worked with the county from 2000 to 2016, left for a little while, came back in October of 2017, and have worked with CDBG and home primarily. We have a lot of new grants on the Community Development Division side, and now with Senior Services as well, which we had started to dabble in right before I had left, and so good to see people again, and glad to be here.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Hans Mock, Community Development Administrator. So I've been here about 7.5 years in this position. And probably just the other day, I think I recognized that I've been working in nonprofits and things for 20 years now. So it's been a really long ride, but I've worked with 3 nonprofit organizations in the community. So happy to be here as usual.
Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. There are no public comments, correct? No one signed in for public comments? Does anyone around the table have any comments? Because I do, so I'm going to let you guys go first if you want. Paul?
Of course I do. I attended the Area Agency on Aging planning meeting yesterday, and I requested information to be sent
Bless your heart.
to all of us about the funding between federal and state, as well as the demographics of people being served in McHenry County and the surrounding areas. And I think that would have a lot of impact as we move forward in the allocation kind of priorities. And I've asked them for the PowerPoint presentation, and with your permission, Chairwoman, I would like to forward that to you, and maybe you could distribute it to everyone.
Absolutely.
I thought it was very insightful that there's going to be an increase in funding for home delivered meals and congregate meals. And there are no waiting lists, this is important for us to know, for any of the service, for service delivery. And in the past, there has been a waiting list for congregate meals and home delivered meals. So I think that would be, you know, as we work through the grant application and what.
Again, my comments could not have been perfect timing. I'm going to segue right into what I wanted to talk about, because it's all about that.
So it's, and we're moving at the Area Agency on Aging towards allocations and creating those priorities of how we're going to be looking at the funding, but they're predicting there's an increase on state level funding for caregiver support, and which is very needed, as well as, like I said, the other meals, but as well as the federal level. But that's kind of iffy based on what's going on in Congress. But I will forward that to you, and if you could please send it to everyone.
Please. And as I stated, that goes directly to what I wanted to say up front to all of you. First comment is we still have one open position for a not-for-profit. Working with staff and myself and others, we are trying to fill that. If you have recommendations or suggestions, please offer them to Hans, but we have made a couple of outreaches to fill that position, so at the next meeting we'll have a full complement. Eric Ruth has been nominated by the township supervisors to fulfill that role as is required by our bylaws. So he'll be joining us as well. I made a promise to him and to Board Member Hendricks that we try and keep these meetings on task and within a 2-hour framework, so that we need to rock on here. And I'm also going to look at all of you and say the problem that you had in the past was getting a quorum here. I think the change in the bylaws, thank you very much, is going to correct that. But I'm looking at all of you and saying, get your butts in these seats. We got lots of work to do. the strategic plan for this commission has not been completely updated since 2012. There were some revisions and modifications throughout the years, but an overall look at what we're supposed to be addressing and how it is we're addressing it has really not been done. I want to do that with all of you. If we can get it done this year, that would be great. If not, it can be an ongoing process, but we need to do it and make a presentation. We need to review, as Paula just stated, there's a lot more data out there, there's a lot more funds that maybe can be accessed, but we need to kind of look. And the big one is as we allocate funds, we need to be cognizant of what other agencies and what other commissions are also allocating and see if we can't find those funds and really support the mission of this commission and allow entities to truly provide the services and not give 10 cents to you and 10 cents to Peggy and 10 cents to Paula, who can't do a darn thing with 10 cents. So I really want to kind of shift and make sure that we're aware of what other people are doing and how we can better allocate those funds to deliver the services that are so crucial to our senior population. So that was my little speech this morning. So now that we have a full complement, can we go back to the approval of the meeting minutes? I do know many of you obviously were not here for that last minute, but you can read them, and I'm going to assume if there are people who have been here in the past and they say that they're representative of the meeting and what was discussed, we can be comfortable. So maybe can I take a motion from one of
I'll
our...
make the motion.
Thank you, Mary. Seconded by Paula. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Minutes are approved. Going on, we had no public comment. Presentations. As you know, we fall underneath the auspices of the Department of Community Development, and so we thought we'd do a little presentation and explain that entire structure. So who am I looking at?
Bianca's going to go ahead and start, and then I will jump in at certain
Thank you.
parts of it.
Can I jump in a second and just say in lieu of roll call, because we
Oh, I
did our
apologize. I
introductions,
forgot.
I'm
Yeah,
counting
yeah,
that as
yeah.
roll call.
Okay.
So we didn't have Teresa introduce herself, but I do have her noted as present as well.
Do you want to take 2 seconds before we do the presentation? We all introduced ourselves.
Sure, yeah,
Teresa
I mean, I
is here.
think everybody here does know me. Teresa Mashes, represents District 1. I was on Senior Service Grant Commission for 2 years. I very much enjoyed the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to my continued service here.
And you're now, though, a representative as a part of what committee?
I am the
Formal.
chair of Valley High.
Oh, I know.
Really finance.
Yeah, finance.
Yes, why am I here?
She's
I'm here
a
on
county, right,
finance.
she's a county board liaison
Yes.
as part of the finance committee at the
Yes.
county board level. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Trying to put all those pieces
Right,
together.
yes.
Thank you. So we have quorum, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So let's go on to the presentation, please.
All right, so our community development staff is made out of Hans, you already know our community development director, Brandon Kiker, who's not here right now, he deals more with the COC. Tony Peschke, he deals with our Ledge Safe Home program, currently gonna be working on our roofing program as well. Myself, Faith, Michelle Halverson, she's been dealing more with our treasury rental assistance program. Joseph Davis, he just kind of helps all of us.
With planning.
And Eric Saikon, who's also our community development associate. All right, so this is a funding recap. Should I go ahead and probably zoom in a
That
little
would be
bit?
great. For
All
us
right,
old people, even
so I'm
with
gonna go ahead and
glasses.
actually
Yes.
move this way if I can get this to work with me. So these are all our agencies that were funded for the year 2022, and I am gonna have to get out of this because it's not letting me. Hold on.
And that is available to us, right? Was that included?
Yeah, I'll have to go
Yeah.
ahead and pass that out. All right, so these
I
are
don't
all our
think
agencies.
that wasn't in our packet.
It was not.
Wasn't?
No, but it can be mailed out to everyone.
Please,
Mailed
just
out.
so we have that, thank you.
All right, so this is actually all the agencies that were funded for the grant year 2022, what they expended.
Can you pull it up a little bit?
I think she's working on it.
Yeah, I'm
Are
trying
you
to work
trying
on
to
it,
do
but
Man. I
because
need
we have so many.
binoculars. There we go.
All right, so this is the amount that they were actually funded, and I could jump to the screen of what they had requested if you need me to. What's this?
I have that still from last year.
All right, so these first two columns are the number columns, I'm sorry, are what they requested and what they were approved for the funding year 2022.
And the number we have available for this year really is not substantially different than what we had last
No,
year,
it's still gonna
correct?
be 1.645. So what I was getting to with this spreadsheet for the 2022 year is that out of all the funds that were actually awarded, we had $3,494.40 left over. So that's about 1% left of everything that was awarded. So all the agencies did really good with their spend down. A couple of the agencies that didn't spend down all the way, it was due to staffing issues. So it's something unfortunately that we're seeing a lot with different agencies and different companies.
So, is it okay to ask Chair?
Absolutely.
So the $3,000, is that the amount of money that has not been spent by the agencies that have not, that had staffing issues? Are
Correct.
these, is that correct?
Correct.
And
that
that's
was-
going back into the general fund of the general 1.65?
It rolls back into the next competition.
You know what I'm saying here?
Yes.
So that we may have a little bit more money.
Mhm.
Okay.
So we have about $3,400 more, a little bit
Okay.
less than 3,500. These are current agencies that have been funded right now and how much they have expended. We just finished our first quarter, so most of the agencies have hit either the 75% mark or are actually expending even more. There are 2 agencies that are still in the 90s. I have spoken to both of them, one of them being the hoarding project. That one, because first quarter does fall in the winter, they do struggle more just because of the weather. Most of their expenditures are projected to be spent like second quarter and third quarter, they said. And then when it comes down to Pearls, the Pearls program also, it seems like they're finishing up one of their other funding sources first, and then they're gonna go ahead and fully touch our senior service grant funding.
So which agency, I hate to pound this, which agencies are underperforming with the utilization of dollars?
It would be both hoarding cleanup and then, which would be our senior service associates. But in the past, they have expended all their funding, so it's just weather related for sure.
Right.
Harvard Community Senior Center Pearls, it's the first year that we went ahead and refunded them. We didn't fund them last year. So they are expending their other grant first, just because of the deadline with them,
Okay.
and then they're gonna go ahead and touch our senior service. In the past, when we funded them before, we did not have an issue with their spending.
And I think we're doing this report, and we'll do it on a regular basis, but that is an issue. Timing is obviously an issue for certain individuals, certain organizations. And as stated, some of it's staffing. I just want to, again, commend, I'm learning, but I want to commend staff because they really do follow through with all of these organizations to ensure that if there's an issue, they can help.
Right.
So, yeah, not taking that for granted, so
Well,
we
yeah, and
appreciate
that's-
that.
That's been the way for years.
Oh, for years,
so.
I recognize that.
For the housing authority, I'm just gonna let you know, all of their dental money has already been obligated.
Okay, that's.
So, and that was a month ago that was all obligated, so.
And one of the reasons you're hearing me repeat, again, you have history. Many people who are now serving in this capacity have none.
Right.
So part of this is an educational process
Right.
too,
Absolutely.
about, okay, so, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right,
I
and then-
apologize, ma'am.
She's politely bringing me up to speed.
Well, you know what, it's.
Well, I'm gonna be bringing other people up.
And
as
that
we
is
do.
not new, every couple of years, we're
Yeah.
always kind of going through that learning cycle with everyone,
Yeah.
so.
All right.
So I
And it
remember
takes
2 years ago,
probably-
2 years ago, I don't know, sure.
I was gonna say, and it takes
Yes.
about 2 years to finally get
It does.
an understanding of the whole.
I'm very sensitive to that.
All right,
The
so
whole
the reason
thing.
why I have it this way is just so I can zoom it in better. I know it doesn't look the nicest, but, so right here, what you're looking at is our programs that are currently funded and have requested funding. Obviously, 2022, what they requested, what they were awarded. And then we have 2023, what they requested and what they were awarded.
Yep.
So just so you can see the scope of where our funding has gone to.
And again, that'll be sent out to everybody.
Yes. All right, so let me go back to the other view. now that we're done with the small numbers. All right, so, for some of the new ones, SSGC was created through the state legislation. A referendum a referendum to fund was approved in April of 2003. An average of just over $1.7 million in funding has been approved annually. Over 70% of the clients assisted have a household income of below 80% AMI, which is a area median income. Programs provide supportive services to our seniors, as well as nutrition programs and transportation. The statute does not specifically identify an age basis for a senior, so that's something that we could also touch with the strategic plan, so we could all be on board. And then the most similar funding program to the senior service grant is also the mental health board.
And I just want to point out something, the 1.7 million has been, because some funds have been carried over from year to year, this year is going to be an exception with a really low amount. But when we had the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP, that year, a lot of money got left on the table.
That's
So
right,
the
that's
following
right,
year, a
that's
lot of
true.
money got allocated.
Yeah,
So then the next year, it was like, well, we have way
it
less.
was shock again.
Yeah.
Well, again, I am very, very sensitive, and it's going to be something you hear me repeat over and over again. I have heard from county board members, we have representatives here, that one of the challenges is, again, a lack of tons of funds and how we allocate that. So when we allocate it, those organizations can use them appropriately to meet the mission of what this commission is.
That's right.
I do not want to get in the habit of giving $2 and it sits there because you can't use it. There's no purpose to it. So just as we go forward with future allocations, I want to use the money in the best possible way with the best possible organizations to provide those services that we all think and the county board thinks are appropriate.
Well, and two, just to go back to the history of it too, it was never intended at the beginning that the agencies,
Thank you.
we weren't supposed to be
Funding everyone.
reliant on everyone to be able to come back every single year. And then we had the crash, everybody lost funding. So then we were still supporting a lot of the agencies saying, we want to help them be there because the economy took a turn, and so a lot of the agencies were struggling. But it was also, that's a question that we ask, if you're not able to get the full funding, because
What happens?
what can you do? And in the beginning, we used to almost go line by line and say, okay, we're gonna take this out, and then we, as a commission, had said, what we'll do is say, this is the amount of money we're gonna allocate, and you put it where you think the resources need to be, instead of us deciding. And, the water had been a thing and a line item, and they're like, why are we paying for water? That kind of thing. But it also wasn't intended that we would be able to, that we would fund every single year, that we were trying to create new programs in the county to help seniors. So, but then that didn't really happen the way they thought it
Right.
was gonna be when they first had the vision.
And
of this
every iteration is going to be slightly different as we
Yes.
move
Right.
forward in what
Yeah.
it is we're trying to achieve. I just, again, want to be sensitive, and I want to ensure that the communication between this commission and our applicants is clear about what it is we're seeking from this point moving forward. And it may change, it may not, but I just want to be overly clear. And I know that I'm going to collectively
Right, but-
refer to them as staff, and I'm not being
I
disrespectful.
think the debate also
But that's
was,
important.
some agencies were coming in and asking for 100% funding for some of their programs. And is that the role, or should we have a conversation about diversification of their funding, so if anything would ever happen, there's sustainability of that particular program agency? And I think it's really tough with 1.65 million, and then take a look at the other funding streams and how are they maneuvering agencies individually to build capacity that we can complement those dollars to leverage.
Precisely.
You know where I'm going with this?
Absolutely. That's
I
again
just
the
like,
information.
I think that was the other debate, wasn't it? And I think all of us will have challenges in front of us.
Mhm. And also looking at what their other funding sources
Yeah,
are. If
what
you've
are
got
they?
agencies that aren't able to access under other funding, you know, you kind of look at a little bit differently than the ones that are able to do fundraising and have other sources of income, so.
Okay, I apologize again. We won't interrupt. We'll let you finish. Let's hold our questions.
All right, so what can you be funding? We can fund supportive social services designed to prevent the unnecessary institutionalization, of elderly residents, providing the operation of and equipment for senior service centers, and providing for transportation vehicles or services for seniors. That looks like a typo.
Can you change the wording?
Yeah,
From
that's
elderly people to older adults? Because
It's
it is,
politically correct now.
that language is changing in the aging community. All due respect.
And then what can you not fund with these grants?
I
Direct
prefer
grant-
older adult,
um,
now that I'm there.
We can't fund
I
direct.
think this is an important screen. Thanks.
All right, so we cannot be funding any direct granting to individuals. We can't grant hospitals, nursing homes, any past organizations, purely social organizations, political parties or candidates, any for-profit organizations, the preparation of any grant applications. We can't cover any advertising, journals, booklets, etc., any social events, any ticket purchases, sponsorships, construction or capital projects. We don't want to stay away from startup agencies that have not provided services to any seniors or elderly adults, or older adults, for at least 1 year prior to submission of an application, and then we can't cover any payments of debt service.
And I do want to point out those last two screens, those were last updated in 2016 by the commission.
All right, so this is our senior population throughout the years. We counted the older adults of 55 plus. So as you can see, back in 1990, the population was 16.4, and 2017 to 2021, the older adults population increased to 29.5. So it has increased tremendously throughout these years, meaning that more services are needed to assist them.
And I'm going to interject, and one of the reasons that Eric Ruth was selected from the township supervisors is because Grafton has a large number of seniors, so they thought that that was appropriate. So we do know that.
And then, did you want to?
Oh, there's another typo on your screen.
Where do you see that?
To the right, senior over 65 who don't dive.
Yeah. You got that yesterday.
Yeah, I got that too. In fact, I said-
Sorry, those things just jump out.
All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about this. So we were asked to come up with in the absence of a fully completed plan, we were asked to come up with 1-year target goals. And so what we did is we looked at the types of grants that we funded over the past several years and categorized them. So we're going to start with the transportation category. So the organizations that are potential applicants that have either come in the past or are currently funded have been Senior Care Volunteer Network. Primarily that's what their role is. They do other things obviously than that. Richmond and McHenry Townships, Division of Transportation is a past applicant, and the Village of Hebron. Individuals over 6, so what we did is we looked at data, and the data according to the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, it's got that. We looked at the number of individuals over 65 who don't drive, plus seniors who have a disability. What we did then is we looked at kind of what we would do with our consolidated plan. What do we do in 5 years? So we took the figure, which is 8,343 individuals, and we put 20% of that as an annual target. So that's 1,666 as the annual target. All right.
Does everybody understand that? Got it?
Oh, wait, go back. I have a question.
Brenda?
Yeah, and I also appreciate if you guys, when you speak, okay, I'm getting old, and I don't have hearing aids. I need one, but speak up a little bit better, please.
Okay.
My question is are you gathering that information from censuses that are taken by each municipality in McHenry County?
So this is aggregate data that was from the Bureau of Transportation on the whole county population.
How do they get that information?
How
I
do
mean,
you
we're
get
gonna-
that information? Scott?
It's surveys just like the census. I mean, it's a similar survey to the US Census.
How often do you do that survey?
It's less often than the census is, but it's still, it's accurate enough where all the decisions are made nationwide on transportation funding based on that survey that's done. So, yeah, it's accurate information. Hans has got the right.
I find that interesting because we're getting ready in Huntley to do another special census because our numbers have increased beyond what's reported. So I don't know how accurate that is. That's my question.
So does that information flow into what nationally is being done to the Older American Act, to where they make decisions about allocable dollars?
I'm not sure, Paul. I'm not as.
But I
familiar with
mean,
that.
there's got to be some kind of spoke, someone to make those decisions in shaping federal and state policy that impacts local policy regarding the transportation issue. Because it keeps on coming up as a major issue with lack of connectivity, and you and I talked. And so that data is collected from a federal level. Does it connect, do they communicate to the other potential?
One would hope they do. Yes.
I would, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I don't think it's any better coming from the feds than it's coming from what we do locally. So we gotta deal. I know, we can do that.
We're making priorities based on the data, and it impacts the, how that money is being utilized from one level to another that flows
Got it.
to us.
Got it.
That's all I'm saying, and
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with you, but
And Rhonda, I think that what we have is the best we can do. Do we
Right.
try and improve it? Yes, but it's what we've got,
Right.
right? And it's in our control. We do the best we can, and we actually
Okay.
are people that we recognize.
I-
Yeah. So let's not beat it up. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we do presume there's a margin of error with these things, with any census or anything, 4% typically, something like that. And I'll make sure I go up volume here. Okay. All right, so the next category is home health care. So potential applicants, or applicant is Lake County Center for Independent Living, which serves McHenry County. I know when you see that name, it may not appear as though they work in the county. And so what we looked at here are single individuals aged 65 and better, living alone.
Yeah,
This is me
another
typing
typo.
quickly, very quickly, and with a disability. So we're taking a presumption here that an individual living alone will need that support. The total number who meet this measure are 3,086. That data came from CMS, the Center for Medicaid Services. And since we had 3,086, we took 1/5 of that number to come to 617 as the target. All right, integrated senior services. So this is going to be more complex senior services for individuals, particularly dementia, Alzheimer's. And so a potential applicant here is Independence Health and Therapy. What we looked at is the number of individuals with Alzheimer's according to CMS, so the same data source. The prevalence is 3,690 individuals. That number has remained roughly the same over the past probably 10 years, but those individuals need significant services. And the annual target that we determined based on that is 148.
So we don't have any more current data than 2017?
Correct. And so when we see these, sometimes they're like a 4-year, 5-year span. All right. So intellectual disabilities, this is the one we were challenged with the most, finding information on, because what you see is birth data, which isn't really telling us adult people
Right.
that are going to be in those programs. So what we determined here is Pioneer Center for Human Services would be the potential applicant here. We looked at rates of Down syndrome and autism with significant intellectual disabilities. But we determined the births in order to kind of determine how many adults in the long term. This is the one out of all of them I feel like was the most challenging for us to come up with a number. But we came up with a target of an annual population of 39 needing services. And so generally this population will live a shorter lifespan. And so the thought is they're considered a senior at a younger age than many other people would be. All right, homelessness. So we do have a lot of data for homelessness because we have the Homeless Management Information System. So that's where this data came from. So this is an interesting stat. There's been a 204% increase in the number of homeless individuals aged 55 or better. We used a lower age for this population because of more of a risk of lethality for that population. They tend to have mental health and substance abuse issues. The numbers of individuals is there, so 113 of them were in that age group, but now it's 343, and that's only in 5 years. So again, we're expecting to target 20% of the most recent homeless management information, which is that 343 number, with a factor of a 204% ongoing increase. So what we determined there is 141 individuals need assistance. The applicants for these programs would be Home of the Sparrow and Veterans Path to Hope, both serve homeless. All right, and so this one we're looking at food insecurity. Yes, okay. And so for our potential applicants here are Catholic Charities, a past applicant, Northern Illinois Food Bank, and any prospective food pantry that may want to apply for assistance. I don't know, have you ever had a food pantry? So just the food bank. So what we looked at here are seniors with an income of under $50,000. Illinois' data demonstrates that they're using the population of 60 and better have a food insecurity rate of 40.8%. I think it was 13.8%. Anyhow. We assume that that these are an urgent need. So if people are hungry, they're hungry, they need assistance. So we're going to put the full 100% as the annual target of 1,477.
I wonder if the food pantry is because they're all run by volunteers. So whether it's an awareness of the funding that's available, but also I think the amount of documentation and all that goes with maybe not being familiar with writing grants, and then how to be able to do the reporting and all that. It'd be cool if there was like a coalition of all the food pantries where we could do that. But then they'd have to track that it's only going to seniors. You know, there's so much work in it that I don't think that's
why they're not
gonna be-
applying, right?
Right.
And they do get some assistance. Most of the food banks get assistance from the Northern Illinois Food Bank.
Right, but
Right.
the food bank came in with a boxed, right? It was a boxed meal, so it was like food seniors weren't interested in eating that they were doing, and so I think they only came 1 year
Yeah,
that they got the funding, and it just didn't really work, and so they didn't come back again, because that's when Donna was on the commission.
It might have been 2015 because they came back in 16.
Yeah, but did we fund them?
No.
so in Elgin, when I used to work, in Elgin, there had so many food pantries, and I want to point out the fact that they consolidated the food pantry so that there was a coordination of distribution and data collection analysis, so they could see that there would not be a duplication of services from, you know, people going from one food pantry to another and then all of that. And United Way down there, was at the table to have a conversation about having a network for
But that was within
oversight of the food
Elgin.
pantries.
Was that the whole
Yeah.
county, or was that just within Elgin?
It was within Elgin, and they had, I'm gonna say this, Pam, they had over 23 food pantries there.
Right, no, I understand, but I'm saying there, again, from my perspective, we have limited funds,
I know.
limited time, so, yeah, good idea.
I'm not
but-
suggesting
yeah.
that the Senior Services Grant Commission should do it. I'm saying there should be a conversation outside the Senior Services Grant Commission about the organization of food pantries so that they can, there's efficacy of how they do the work, and getting back to Mary's point about the data that's being collected, so that we have a full understanding of hunger in this county. I think it's all kind of, in my view,
And
fragmented.
Our Crystal Lake food pantry tends to be like more of the hub of all of them.
Yeah,
it
They
is.
collect the most information. One of the other things I'll say about CDBG, and particularly the COVID funds that had come in, very easy to fund the Northern Illinois Food Bank because it granted all the other
Right.
food pantries the right to go ahead and draw out of that. And it wasn't a limited population either, so they could serve anyone.
Right.
CDBG is time and place. So if you present and say, I'm hungry, you need food, you're low moderate income. It's very easy to track. We've had significant challenges getting an individual pantry to come in, probably for the reason you mentioned, Mary. So up until this year, we got an application for rehab for increasing McHenry food pantry. And that application was written by a hired grant writer. So they didn't have anybody on their staff that was going to
Right.
be able to write that. So then that got funded, so it'll be expanded. which
Well,
is
maybe
great.
though, that would be something that United Way could look at, is working with the different food pantries to access the senior services.
Good idea.
At least to make an application, when, we're always looking for new applicants, that would be another way to feed seniors who maybe, don't want to have home delivered meals
Yeah.
and still want to feel that independence. So that might be something to add to the strategic plan
Yes.
about
Mhm.
trying to generate some new interest in the funds. Again, then that takes away from other agencies, but that might be, because you have seniors that don't want to do the
I agree.
Meals on Wheels or whatever, and
They
so
don't
that
wanna-
might be a way to kind of address that need in just a better way for seniors.
And we'll talk about that in the strategic plan and about how that moves forward. And I would say that, you're gonna hear me say this 100 times, I want data. I don't wanna assume, based on anecdotes, that this is a problem that we're gonna solve, that's not a
Right.
problem
I agree.
yet. So I agree, we'll talk
But if
about
we
it
can
during,
find,
if
yeah.
we could just note that during the strategic plan discussions, we can talk about that.
But maybe that's something United Way can even start looking at now as a process, or some
Yeah.
agency that would take it over.
Not us.
Yeah.
Not us. Thank you very
Right.
much, not us.
Not
Well,
us.
yeah, because we're not equipped to do that.
Exactly. All right, I'm sorry.
No,
Keep going.
no.
We gotta get through this, guys,
I know.
let's go.
I got a quick question though. I'm noticing that there's often a discrepancy in what constitutes the age of a senior in the slides you've been showing us,
That's changed.
which really is worrisome because you're showing some slides at 55, some at 65. And and you're getting this from other people, obviously, okay? So if it were really 55, which is what it really is, okay? That means more people may need money, they're homeless, more people may need more food bank money or whatever. So there's some fallacious numbers in there of the data. I'm data.
No, and
oriented, too.
if you noted, Hans brought it up, that's another comment for the strategic plan. What number do we use under what circumstances? So you're right, you nailed it on the head. I think this group has to decide as we move forward what it looks like. And again, when you talk about people with Downs or autism, et cetera, we may lower that senior number to 55. And again, seniors, older people, older persons are active longer. I mean, I'm still working, I'm 70, and maybe shouldn't have those services until later, right? So we're gonna have to have that discussion. So again, I
Yeah.
concur, it's a valid
And at the
component.
beginning, back when this started, we did have that conversation and we said 50, but but we left it to each agency what they considered because they know what their clientele, where they fall, like Pioneer Services is gonna be younger because of their disabilities or
Right.
lack
And
of
we
better
have to
words.
keep that,
Yeah.
and I agree,
Right.
I just want to make sure that again, as we move forward and we look at our application process, that those are the kinds of things we note to those people who are going to apply.
Right,
Right?
which we've always done.
Yeah,
But you're new, so you didn't know, so we'll tell you.
thank you.
All right, so our next category is senior centers and services. So this potential applicants here are Senior Services Associates, Harvard Community Senior Center, and ElderWorks, who's been an applicant but has not been funded. They're not really a center per se, but they sort of fit into this
Right.
category. So here, we're looking for individuals who may want to socialize, right? So in this case, we're looking at the number of unemployed, 65 and better, plus the number of seniors no longer in the workforce is 46,200. Presuming no longer in the workforce is probably on Social Security benefits. We took 20% of that number for an annual target of 9,240 individuals. So people going to Senior Services Associates may go for a quick referral. They may go there to get their taxes done. They may go to work on their property tax exemptions, those kinds of things. So they may be very quick types of services, so that's why that number is so large. In other cases, it may be to socialize, participate in bingo, those kinds of things. That's cliche. Dental programs, so this is an interesting one too. The potential applicant here is the Housing Authority. So we found data regarding tooth loss for individuals over age 65. And so from 2018 to 2020, we get more frequent measures on this one. The prevalence of tooth loss actually went down. So as people, probably more dental care early on in life, has made it so that individuals have teeth at 65. So the prevalence went from 9.8% of the population to 8.5% in just those 2 years. Again, our senior population is 46,037. So the current rate is 3,913, and 20% of that number is 783. And again, costs very much a lot of money for dental. So that's,
Yeah.
we're looking at $1,500, $2,000 per person typically.
Well, right, and seniors have to pay extra for the dental, so if they're low income as part of their Medicare, then they're not getting the dental. And the dental services at the Housing Authority is anybody in dental pain is coming in, so it's not necessarily the loss of a tooth, it's preventing the loss of a tooth.
Good distinction, thank you.
Legal services, so Prairie State Legal Services would be the potential applicant here. According to the Legal Services Corporation, which is sort of their overarching group, has data. 71% of seniors in the state will need some form of legal services, so we're going to extrapolate that over to households under 30% of area median income. So we're looking at lower income individuals here who potentially can't afford legal services, would need free legal services from Prairie State. So what we determined was 3,701 households were determined. The prevalence of 71% was applied to that to come down to 2,628 households. So these aren't people, they're households. And the annual target would be 526 households. So a household could be one person, it could be 2 people, 5 people. All right, hoarders. We set the run rate on this one. This is really hard for us to just take a stab at, and the target would be 8. That seems to be what we've been able to do over the past 4 years. So that's what we set for that one. I find it very challenging to try to come up with a good estimate on something like that. All right, so what I want to point out here is other applicants can come in with very different projects that aren't even things that are on that list. So some examples that have come in is pet therapy in the past. We've had affordable housing providers come in and want to have a service provider in their affordable housing program. So those kinds of things have come forward. Maybe they've come in and asked questions and never applied. But those are the other types of applications we could potentially get. I would say that, you know, some of those types of programs would maybe not be as urgent as some of the other ones that we've listed up here. And that's all I have.
Yeah, we've always been open, we just haven't really gotten very many new applications coming in. You know, very rare.
Yeah,
I remember we had one come in, or was it part of Salvation Army at the time, where they wanted to help with pet food? And they wanted to do you remember that? I don't know if you were here then. And, you know, we were like, you know, pets are important to seniors, but can we do, so I think I had actually
We have-
suggested there was a different program
Right.
that they could maybe get to kind of help with pet food.
There was a different agency
help.
that did that,
Yeah.
found out. but-
So we have had some different ones come in, but it's so, you know, when you've got this, you know, you've got, I've got last year's thing here. So it was, we had 2,252,724 in requests for the 1.8 that we had, no, sorry, the 1.7 I think we had last year to allocate. So you have so much over. That's the challenge. You want to fund everybody, but it's not realistic. So that's where we really have to look at where all their funding's coming in from and who's able to get funding other places and look other places. So, and COVID also threw a big wrench in it because a lot of people couldn't do fundraising. And that, you know,
Right,
kind of held them
challenges.
at that higher level of requests.
And
So-
that's my comment to all of us as we sit here. We're gonna face significant challenges because we have limited funds and limited opportunities.
Mhm.
And I wanna make that clear, not
Yeah.
denying people to apply, but understanding. And the other issue I'd like to ultimately get to is kind of prioritizing what we really do wanna fund with what we can fund,
Right.
right?
Which is
So-
why we see the same people every single year, because that's been the priority, you know? So. It's not a new problem.
No, it's not, of course it's not. And it won't go away either.
No,
It won't
no.
be a problem we solve
No.
anytime soon
Yeah.
either. Does anybody have any questions? Do you have any questions? You're all good? Okay,
Did a lot of reading.
thank you. God bless you, I know you do. Old business, the financial report, please.
Sure. This is part of that table in the PowerPoint that we talked about too. And really, everybody did a pretty good job. I think when you look at the amount of money that is left on the table, the biggest challenges people were having were lack of staffing and being able to get enough staff in a time when we're still kind of dealing with problems, post-COVID. Also, we had a lot of inflation, so we had meals costing more, transportation costing more. And there were some agencies that needed to pivot their budgets a little bit. Can we pull some off staffing? We don't have that person. Can we put it on meals? Can we put it into transportation? Wherever possible, we did that to help them spend down. Nothing increased in their overall budget, but they just really struggled. And they still did a fantastic job. I think where you see the highest amount there is a couple of the Independence Health, but look at how much money they had. In overall, I think that's still really well spent, and we've only got, like Bianca said, about 3,000 left on the table. They did a knockout job. They stayed on target. In our last few meetings, you asked how are they doing. Halfway through the year, they were 50% spent, 3/4 of the way, 70, 80, some completely spent. I think they did a really good job staying on target and paying attention to what you're looking for, which is timely expenditure and good use of funding.
And I also think that it's a credit to all of you for the communications back and forth and making sure that we can reallocate if we run into a problem. And I heard that from many of the other providers too, that staffing was an extraordinarily large issue. Do we know, have we gotten any feedback, is that better today? Or is that still the same situation and we need to consider that as we also?
We still are hearing that. So some of the instances, it might be a quote that Wendy's pays more than we can pay.
Mhm.
We have project right now where there was a challenge with getting a staff person into that program. One of our emergency rental assistance grants, it took several months to get a staff person to work for the salary they were able to offer. So that's the common thing that we've seen over the years. When we have sort of a lot of jobs open, people will go to the ones that gravitate to something higher paying and less difficult to do. And so, human services can be very challenging. So we are still seeing that issue. We're not, seeing the kind of recession type of a situation where there just aren't jobs and everybody's gonna take whatever they can get. So we're just in a very peculiar circumstance right now. So we definitely are seeing that. And even the county itself, we used to get 70 applications for a position. I mean, we're not seeing the level of applicants for our positions when they open.
I think that's true everywhere, and this is a definitely show up and work, not a work from home situation, which a lot of people got used to during the pandemic, and so it's not necessarily an attractive alternative to whatever. But I think that's something too we need to talk about with the strategic plan and see if there is assistance or whatever. So, appreciate that. Thank you. Anybody have any questions on the spend downs or, no? Okay. Moving on.
Yes,
I
I noticed you have another sheet, 23, is that,
That's our current expenditures right now.
which you just showed us in the spreadsheet?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
So
And
what
it's
you're
still
seeing
early
is
and so
percent
hard.
remaining on
Yeah.
the far right column. So, you're looking for somewhere around the 75 range. And the couple that she had pointed out, the hoarding cleanup during winter, we're not doing that because it's a lot of dragging.
It's an
things out
outside
the
thing,
winter.
yeah.
And how long do they
Yeah.
have to finish this? Is it our calendar year?
Yes.
So they have until the end of November?
So right now,
Correct.
we've only completed the first quarter. A lot of the agencies actually only submit quarterly reports and reimbursement requests. So that is also part of it. Like, we still have 3 quarters to go.
Bianca's been really good with collecting their quarterly data and reaching out. So she spoke to Pearls and, or rather Harvard Community Senior Center, and they've got something else they're finalizing. We know there's a lot of funding sources that have different timing, and they've got something else with a stricter deadline. They're moving towards expenditure of that first, then they go on to this. They feel on target to be able to complete in time. So we're not concerned at this point that that's a higher percent.
Yeah, it's pretty on track for what it's been.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, moving on to new business. First item under new business is the discussion. Basically, we wanted to look at the standardized application, see if there's any comments, revisions, et cetera. So I'm hoping that everybody has access to that. Paul?
Are you asking for feedback now, or?
I am, but what I thought we would do, Hans, I'm going to look at your,
Okay.
do you want to review what
So-
we have done, explanation, and then yes, Paula?
Can I ask a question though, because on the agenda it says applicant interview questions.
I apologize.
So we mean the application, not the questions,
What
not
are we doing now? I
standardizing
think-
app
We'll look at Hans.
questions.
Do you want to clarify that, please?
Yeah, okay, sorry, yep, the third one is review the actual application and the sort of timing and everything
So
for
what's
that.
number 1?
So, number 1 is, do we want to ask applicants all the same exact questions? Like maybe there's 2-3 questions that we ask every applicant. And I know one of the questions that's come up is, is this a duplicated benefit? Let's ask that. What do you do if you don't get your full funding?
Right. So I
like-
think we have them already.
Well, you have them. We don't have them.
Right.
So
Well-
what I would do is, can we describe those questions in the past with input? And are there any additional questions that we should consider? Or are there questions that you've asked that no longer are applicable? That's all I would.
Yeah, I think a lot of the questions are in the application too. And it's, what we've asked in the past is, what if you don't get full funding? Are you duplicating, is it being duplicated by another agency that's receiving funding? And I think those are the 2 big ones, just because that helps with making sure that you're not funding for the same services. And I'll use as an example in the past with senior services and elder works. they do, the part that ElderWorks comes in for is really an information and referral, which is what Senior Services does, and it's not as much, it's not direct assistance to seniors like Senior Services is. So that's an example of some, that question coming up in the past.
And drawing out that information that would be crucial to a decision.
Right.
Thank you. Scott, did you have?
Well, I'm hyper aware of the need of a quorum, and I don't know, I'm gonna have to leave shortly, and I wanna make sure that if I do leave, you can still have this discussion, and there's nothing to vote on that requires me to be here.
I don't think that there's anything necessarily, we can have the discussions.
I would hate to
Number
cover.
And I do
Right, the vice chair,
believe
the
that
vice
Mr. Hendricks
chair.
will be here as soon as his court time is done,
That's
his
good.
appearance.
I don't wanna
So
cover the
number 2
discussion.
is a quorum
Right.
issue.
And number
Yeah.
3 is more of just sort of the blessing to proceed, with just some revisions if necessary. So I think number 2 is the most important. I would just throw another third question as a standard one that was being asked probably 4 or 5 years ago is, are your other funding resources at risk? So
Yeah.
federal and state resources, and that was a big issue when the state didn't have a budget. So it
Right.
might be a question to throw on there, just even if they have large donors
Absolutely.
every year that have disappeared. So I could throw that as.
So that would be more on the part of the allocation packet, to have those questions available to the commission members.
But I also think that out loud questions are good too, even if it's on.
Oh,
the packet.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
that's what we're, yeah.
I wouldn't say necessarily even have it as part of the packet. I think there are those questions within the application, but they're questions we need to ask when they're in
Yes.
our days.
Exactly.
And so I think it's important to have it part of the allocation packet for us,
I
to make
agree.
sure
I
that
agree.
we're asking, so.
I agree.
Okay. And then one last thing is defining service units. What is your service unit? It is asked in the application,
Right.
but maybe having that stated so it's clear. But I will, Scott's got to leave if the next one does require.
Well, and I was gonna ask a favor, if it's okay. If it's okay with you, Mary's always served in the capacity as vice chair. We have a whole host of people who aren't here who represent maybe the not-for-profit side. And I'll take feedback, it's up to you, but I kind of would like to delay that until the next meeting so that we get more people here. And Mary, if you're okay,
I'm
we'll just make
absolutely
the
fine with
understanding
it.
that you're the vice chair until there's a new,
Yeah.
if that's.
Because, the LOI meeting is, so, again, they're coming in, and if we have questions or whatever, the LOI, I don't even know what we call it anymore. It used to be,
Pre-application
used to be
LOI.
the letter of intent, now we're calling
Now
it
it's
something different.
pre-application,
but-
yeah.
Right. So that's kind of a really big business meeting, as well as the September ones. So I don't know if it's something that needed to come up this year, or if it needed, I don't think there was a time necessarily, was there, on it? Can we even put it aside? I'm fine, but if everybody wants to change, that's fine too.
Timing relates to the elections of county board members now. It's tied in with, it's the first meeting after.
The election and
The
the first,
election
yeah,
cycle.
right. But if we delay it to the next
Eric
meeting,
is not going to make this meeting.
so we're not gonna have. a
Well,
quorum,
we
so it
also
doesn't-
quorum anyway,
Yeah,
so
so we don't have one, so.
it's a moot point.
And I will-
My question is, why can an email go out without violation of the Open Meetings Act if we have any questions that we think that should have from an
Yes. Yes.
allocation side sent to you?
That's exactly where we were going.
to
We
expedite
we
this
have the
process?
questions that we've just talked about with regard to the interview process. If anybody else has any input, please give them to me, and then we can add them and bring them back at the next.
So,
Yes.
I looked at the grant application, and you and I have been reviewers in the past at other entities, and I'm gonna give you my feedback in writing on my document,
Please.
but I think we need to have a matrix that has scoring weighted on each component for us as
Hold-
reviewed.
Hold that thought, because we're gonna
Okay.
get there. We're gonna get there. Okay, so are we done with the standardized, the interview questions? We're done. Vice Chair, we're gonna postpone because we don't have a quorum, we can't do anything anyway, so thank you. Now, going on to the application process. I don't know if you want to review what we have currently, and I agree with you, we'll get to that point too as we look at the application. I think
How
that's
do
the
we
way.
weight the components?
And how do we prioritize
Mhm,
our,
mhm.
yes, hands down. But do you want to go through the application as it currently exists today and then obtain anything that you think is no longer viable as part of it? Or where are we voided that we need to add something? And then Paula, I'm going to turn it over to you and you can talk about a matrix.
Are
and-
you in agreement with me about
Yeah,
that?
hands down, we talked about it, yeah. All right, thank you.
All right, so the very beginning of this, which is the first 3 pages, is just a lot of rehash of what the commission does, what's eligible, et cetera, that kind of information. It's for the applicant to have that recognition that those, you can't pay for your debt service, so don't even ask. So this is the meat and potatoes that starts on page 4. This is all done through, Neighborly, so this is the version that you would get in September, if they're allowed to go to full application. So the pre-application / letter of intent is going to be on
So
paper.
are they going to be going online?
They'll be going online to complete those for the September.
Okay, and what kind of, my hearing's bad. So what kind of system, are you using bonded or what other?
It's called Neighborly.
It's the same one we've been using the last couple of years, the Neighborly.
Okay. All right.
So if you go ahead and scroll back up to the beginning. No, right there. To page 4, there we go. All right, so this is just a test one. That is an example from prior year. And what you see here is just some of the very basic information. What's the name of the organization? What's the address? A3 is going to be changed to unique entity identifier. We're not using DUNS anymore at the federal level. This is local money, but we're going to just be consistent. Who's the contact person? So that will be the individual getting all the emails and things. That could be a big problem.
Yeah.
People put
Well,
down some.
yeah.
Well,
head
Richmond
honcho.
Township is a perfect example.
Right, they put different people, they put somebody else's
Yeah.
email.
So can we then flesh that out? Contact name for purposes of,
Communication.
Grant.
Yeah, and just to kind of like a prelude to this, we will have an informational meeting that they will come to between the start of the LOI
Right.
and
Yeah.
when it's due.
I think we also should know who's the grant writer.
And that could be something we include.
Is that, I
Yeah.
mean, there's a contact person,
Could that be the,
and then if there's a question about the grant application, usually that goes directly to the grant writer. That's just purely feedback on your part. I mean, there may be a contact person in the
it's a great
agency.
addition, Paul.
The more the better.
Yep, yeah, hands
So-
down, and I agree. There are
We just don't
different
wanna-
aspects, different pathways of that.
I can't
So
tell you
we'll
how
add
many
that
times it
in.
becomes an issue. Yeah.
Sure.
All right, so do you want to scroll down to A5? All right, there's a phone number, email address. We could get the same information for a grant writer.
Yeah.
All right, A7 is the head honcho, who's signing the stuff, who's signing any kind of other forms that, like contracts. So that needs to be whoever that person is. It might be the same one writing it.
right.
A8 is going to be the project manager. It could be a completely different person, so that might be a program person. What's their address and phone number? You know, they may be working at a separate site from the main headquarters, for example. What's their email address? All right. And then here we want to reiterate who the head honcho at A7 is. So you got A12, 13, 14, 15 are going to be their exact title and information. So that goes on the contract. All right. And then do you want another person? So other staff probably could just be grant writer.
Right.
Yeah,
So
maybe
often
we
that-
should, maybe we should, designate other staff / grant writer. Because not everybody will have.
And it could be the same person on every single one of those questions.
Yeah, and you'll see that like
All kinds
senior,
of-
Yeah.
senior care volunteer network, most likely she's
Yeah.
gonna be the one on everything.
Exactly.
All right. We go down to more staff, we can keep adding more people. And so you can clearly see this has been an issue, right? That's why we've added, put as many people as you want in there. All right. So returning grantees, we will ask, in this case, what happened with 22? We'll put the dates for 22 in there. How many unduplicated people did you have? Do you want to explain that? So remember, this is one coming in September.
I know, it would really be nice too if they could really keep their dissertations to the amount of space that's in there, because when we, you know, those of us that wanna print, we lose
You do,
a
yeah.
lot of
I
a lot of
agree.
their narrative, because we can't access that, you know, whatever falls outside of that box, and that's been an issue
It
since
is.
we went to this.
I think they need to
Program.
keep their narrative to a certain amount of words.
Yeah.
That fits in that box.
And I know we've said keep it short, keep it to this many characters, keep it whatever,
agree.
and
Or is the software limited because of the printing, and do we need to say attach a separate sheet?
well, we want them to keep it short though.
I
Yeah.
think we can put a number of words, we can put
Okay.
a number of word count in there with
We
neighborhood.
need to keep it, well, when we were on the scholarship review team, they kept it to a certain number of
Yeah.
words. And then I was on another review team for grants. It's like, keep it to 300 words or, I mean,
Here's the thing, when they keep it short, we can then ask about it. at the
Right.
meeting.
Yes.
You're right, I wasn't, I'm
Yeah.
throwing out, remember sharing, I'm throwing out all possibilities so
I
you discuss
understand.
it, and we have a consensus. Not that I'm ignoring, but nobody can say, but I wanted, and nobody listens, so
I
that's what we're doing.
understand.
So I have no problem. So what's the appropriate number of words?
In the past, we've had these around 250.
Yeah,
There you go.
and yeah, make sure that's what fits
It's-
in the software.
It's explicitly stated to the,
Should be characters then instead.
I don't know how
I
the
would say you
software
want
works.
you,
Is it character?
because you probably want characters, because some people, like me, like to use really ridiculously long words. And you're gonna lose, when I write,
To
when I talk,
confuse
no,
us?
but when I write, this, I want smart, it's not intelligent, I
I
went to
know,
college, and I'm
that's
using
right.
college
All
words.
right,
let's
so
show that.
let's say characters, I think that that's probably appropriate, because
So
people
we'll get
put
you.
numbers into, with commas, right? So let's say characters, and let's again try and put something in there at the interview process when we're explaining, we specifically point that you're limited to this many. We'll ask questions during the process,
Right.
but you're limited, that's it, so that they are aware that that's what we're doing again this year.
Oh,
And that your most important information you want us to know is what you get in there, not all the fluffy, they seem to
Not
just
the
do a
long
lot
words.
of, not even the long words, but they do a
I
lot of
understand.
fluff
Repeating, it's a lot of
and
repeat.
repeating.
Yeah, a lot of repetitiveness,
Marketing.
yeah.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And by the way,
just
I
keep it
intend-
short and sweet.
I intend to be at most of these, so I will take all these comments and indicate that that's what the reviewers are looking at. So we'll do that. Thank you.
So B2 is similar question, just asking about service units. B3. So if you were awarded last year, so you know, again, we're looking over other data, whatever. Please describe how your request might have changed. So that probably won't be as long of an answer. So are they doing something significantly different than they were
Right.
the prior year? We'd want to know that because sometimes it's apples and oranges all of a sudden. So,
Well, and maybe can use the word significant,
Yeah,
so that they understand that we're not looking for, you know, just a little change, but what significantly has changed to make your request bigger.
My feeling is, under that first section, B3, to me, if I were answering that, which most will probably answer, all right, there's not enough space to even answer that question. And the first two things we talked about, it's numbers, they don't need much space. But this one, they do, because they're providing explanation of the changes.
and see, in this case, what happens with it is, it may look like there's not a lot of space there. When it's pulled out of the system without an answer, it just truncates it real close
So
to one
there is-
another.
Got it.
So we
Yeah.
would actually have the software company add the character number there. And then that would be what you could put in. So 4 and 5 are just historical information for the commission to see at a glance, even though you'll have the chart as well. All right, so this is, C1's gonna be the project title. C2, what is the total cost of all of it? The whole thing, all your other fundraising grants, et cetera, what does it cost you to run it? And then C3, what are you asking for from this group? All right, C4, we're gonna call this like the elevator pitch, so this needs to be shorter. So if you got in an elevator for 45 seconds, that's what you say. So we may even put that word in there, those words, elevator pitch for C4. Okay, so C5 is looking forward. So we already asked how you defined your service units before. For your next application, how will you define it? Because if you did that significant change, you know, so you had rides before, now you're gonna have service hours. You know, how are you gonna do it with this money? And then how many units are you proposing? How many unduplicated clients? So we will be talking when we have our open meeting about what unduplicated means. There seems to be some confusion. Some agencies have it nailed down and some don't. And then C9 was added in a couple years ago, a few years ago actually, because at that time, some of the commissioners had really been focusing in on what are the other funding resources that these organizations have. So again, this is going to be another elevator pitch type of a question, like what are you doing to bring other money besides what you're asking for here?
So do we need to explain that? Because fundraising, when I look at fundraising originally, I'm thinking about what are you doing as an event or as you know, but fundraising could also mean what other entities have you gone to for money? You know, not an event. So are you applying other places? So do we need to explain specifically what we mean by a fundraising strategy?
What we might want to do here, because
Fund
I had,
procuring, fund procuring.
yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
You said good words, you're doing good words.
we could do something like an ABCD kind of a thing, because I think we've already said, what is Age Guide doing? What are these other groups doing? Could we do A, what do you get from Age Guide? B, what do you get from CDBG? C, what do you get from Mental Health Board? D, all other, like.
That would, yeah, maybe that's,
You know, foundations, and something like that. We could break that down a little bit, and those will be short answers too.
Right.
They don't need to be really long.
Do you want it
So you
specific
got,
to this application or just overall? Because it could be that they get those funds from a different program or for a different program. So do you want it with the focus of what do you get from Mental Health Board Age Guide for this?
yeah.
That's
No,
it.
no, no,
Well, yeah.
for this. I think yay is for this.
yes, absolutely.
Because that's what we're evaluating, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
For this.
Although, sometimes if they don't get our money, they then go tap into their other resources. So like, you might have an agency that does a gala to fundraise for their whole entity. But when they don't get fully funded, then they have to pull from their
Unrestricted.
unrestricted funds. So, I mean, it depends, but I think it is helpful. So much in the past, agencies have said, oh, these are our fundraising, and it truly is what you think, these are the events we do. And sometimes that is helpful.
So in 10, we're asking them about their events
Yeah.
and their appeals and
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah.
maybe instead of, do we want to know what their other funding goals are, or
Home
maybe
delivered
not
meals.
I think that needs to be, I
I'm-
think that
I'm
whole
gonna
thing needs to be
interrupt.
much more concise. It's, so we're not, so it's clear what we're asking them, rather than all the, because I would agree, fundraising strategy and then donations and appeals, it all sounds to me like we're kind of sort of,
But home delivered meals, that's a good example of a donation-based program. So what is, or as well as transportation. And we need to know how much money is being, from those donations for home delivered meals or congregate meals. They're donation-based, they're not means tested, as well as the transportation program. And agencies that do overall fundraising for the organization, they shift some of that percentage point into other service delivery components of their organization. We need to know that, don't we?
We could have a line for program income.
I think, yeah.
That would be a good way to describe that. So the rides, if they put a donation, a few of the organizations mentioned that they'll ask for honorary $3, $4.
Yeah, permit.
So, so we could add that as another thing, as another, just.
Well, I
under-
just want to say that.
Yeah, because that is revenue, so that's gonna count toward.
Oh, so the other question I just realized is, last year, we did change this a little bit. Is this 22's application or 21's application we're looking at? Because before it's a 2020 stuff. And I'm wondering if we, you know, the changes we made last year to get rid of repetitiveness, so when I did my first go, my feedback a year ago was there was too much repetition, let's cut some of these
Yes.
questions.
Yes.
And I'm realizing now, I'm looking at this might be the one that I said, let's cut stuff from.
Here's the 2022 one. Do
Okay.
you want to look at it?
Here, I'll move it down to
All right.
Here, Teresa.
Right, so like, and this is what we had in our email, right?
No, this is what we reviewed last year, and that was the
Yeah.
application we used last
Yeah.
year. Because that's on my last year funding papers.
That's right, when we cut it down last year, I was happy with our application last year. I was like, yeah, this is good, this is what we,
Right.
yeah. So,
Did you see
Does
it?
this, Mayor, does what you have,
That's on
map
the-
that's up there?
I haven't been going page by page, so now I will.
Please, just again, if the recollection is that we've changed this already.
Oh, you know what,
Juanita's right
here,
there.
so I actually have notes on here. So for 10A, we said what amount and percentage of the project program's overall
There you
revenue
go.
is derived from fundraising, i.e. donations.
Does that refresh your memory, Teresa?
well, no, now I'm trying
And
to look
then,
at what we pulled in, what we had in the email that was sent to us that said, review this. Review this before you come here.
And as you note,
See,
many
I
of us did not.
I did, I
I
went
did
through
too,
it
but
all the time.
I looked at it, but
So
I'm not,
I guess the
need-
question is,
This is how I work, better reviewing than on, so.
and ready, and that's quite all right, you can print, that's good for you.
I don't have that ability, so,
I think what was sent to us in the email is that one.
yeah, and we
I'm following along.
We made a
Okay,
change,
tonight, yeah. So,
we made a change last year on 10A and said what amount and percentage of the projects.
do you have that?
Do you want to just pull up like housing authorities one, just as an example from the 23 funding round that would have been using that application?
Because I have a change on 11 too noted here.
So, yeah, 23. There you go. And then applications. All right, just, yeah, housing authority is an easy one to do because it's pretty cut and dry.
Because this printed copy is from 2/15/22, so then we had the discussion in February on this before.
So this would be from August, so this would have been what you got at the hearings.
So 9, right there. So it says what amount and what percentage of the projects overall,
Mm-hmm.
and then 11 is, got the change that I have noted here too. So the one that was sent out is not the one that we used last year. And the one that you're using today is, to review, is not the one we
It's
used
not the one that was
year.
used last year. Got
Right.
that.
So this is the one we're looking at then?
Yeah.
Okay. So C11, obviously, you probably want to remove that one.
I don't know, are people still having lingering effects? I think it's still good information to have.
I still think there's lingering effects of COVID
Yeah,
impacting agencies.
We'll leave it
yeah. One more year.
All right, so C12, standard documents,
Mhm.
goal and outcome reporting, so that's a document that they would be reporting back. Auditing information for the next two. And then a preliminary budget. So that's a form that we just use. then here's the assessment review. All right. This is the compliance with the state statute. So this is a document that they have to sign, basically just
They affirm that they're aware.
cut and paste the statute. There it all is. It's actually one of the shortest laws I think I've ever seen. All right, and then here we go with program information. So here's agency mission, so that's gonna be their mission. We say be as succinct as possible and direct with all the questions.
Do we have the same problem with any of those about the length?
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
So we're gonna again
Yeah.
limit that and ensure that it's
well, and it says.
designated. That's
Yeah.
fine, I just.
Yeah, I think we did the
Let's just be
characters in it
consistent.
too,
Okay.
and they still
We
just
did.
disregarded.
Well, tell them that nobody will read
Some just
beyond
like to
250.
type.
And I think what people do, to be honest with you, and why you don't see all the words, they do it on Word. They cut and paste it,
Oh.
and it's past the limit, so the system just cuts them at whatever, how many characters that is. And they think it's all in there, and they hit submit.
So maybe it's sent, if, like, in the cover email, say, kind of say, don't just cut and paste from Word.
We'll also
Really?
bring it up when we actually have the eyeballs
Well, but
eyeball
sometimes
as
they
well.
don't all attend.
Ready?
I
You
know,
talk to the people you talk to, and that's the way it is.
yeah, yeah.
But we'll put it in the letter too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying one or the other, but they'll also
Right.
hear it verbally as well as.
And sometimes the people, that are doing the grant aren't the ones that are
Right.
coming to the meeting.
Right, I'm
Well,
They look at you with the deer headlights,
Well,
look, why
yeah.
did you write this grant? I don't know what they meant.
Oh my gosh, isn't that?
Well,
annoying?
again, won't they don't know.
I know, right?
They don't
Yeah.
know. Won't they learn?
Right.
They haven't, but maybe they will this time.
Yes.
I don't know what's
It's-
in it,
yeah.
so.
Yeah, I know.
So,
Is what it is.
so E2, we would plan on incorporating that same information, but incorporating what percentage of that target that we set for annual
Yeah.
are you doing? Other than that, unless you want to change anything there. The program description, so this is again a brief overview.
Sure is short.
Keep it short.
Program delivery, so this is really related to capacity. So, they're proposing especially something new, you want to do psychiatry and you don't have a psychiatrist, don't do psychiatry. The financial shortfall information is in there, so in this particular case, this project is scalable, so it's one of those things, if it doesn't have the funding, then it just doesn't happen, or they do half of it or whatever. Levels of accomplishment, how are you going to evaluate that? So are you counting people, are you counting rides, how are you tracking that information? And it looks like Kim is very good at keeping answers short, which is nice.
Yeah. She is when you talk to her too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. All right, and then, so this is a more comprehensive one, so under F1, this is an executive summary, so you have to meet those 5 particular responses within your executive summary. So this is always gonna be a bit longer for the people that like to read. All right, and then here's the program budget with the narrative.
Yeah, see, and we had cut G4, so this one is different than the other one. There used to be a G4.
Mhm.
All
But you
right.
got rid of it, right?
Right.
We got rid of it, so, yeah.
So we want to know who's working on the project, even if they aren't paid out of it. So this is sort of related to the capacity, but in this case, they are receiving 13% of their salary for that one. And then your supportive documentations, again, more standard documents, so you got conflict of interest, board of directors, you need an authorization to submit. So we have had a couple instances over the past 7.5 years where people applied without approval from their board, and they didn't get their money, because the board didn't want it. So it's like, don't do that. IRS determination letter. Again, those are all pretty standard fare for grants. And then there's your signature electronically. And then approved to be funded, so this is a staff thing where,
Right, yeah.
once you approve it, then, we check off there. So that's it.
Any other comments or input on any of that?
I
Now,
think-
timing wise, will we have an opportunity to see, obviously the grant that was used last year with some of the comments that were provided today before that goes out?
Yeah, so that one won't go out until after the LOIs. So the LOI is going to be a shorter version
Okay.
of those same questions. It's to give you the gist of what the project is. It's done on paper. So it'll be taking those same questions, like some of them.
Those
and give you-
first couple of pages, right?
Give you like an overview of it.
Yeah.
That they complete later. So what we could do is generate the blank version of this after Neighborly makes the revisions. And
Please.
just send that off to everybody. So
Please.
probably, you're gonna, well, I don't know when you have your meeting set up with her, but that probably can go out pretty soon. But they wouldn't be filling this out until you all.
I'll
bless them.
understand, but I just want to make sure that we all have an opportunity to review and make sure that what we just talked about is in fact what gets transferred,
Yes.
if that's okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Oh, I'm sorry, Paula, yes, ma'am.
No, I think this is good. I sound like a broken record here, about the scoring, what we consider the priorities of the scoring priorities of each section, so that the grant writer and the people that are completing the application understands what that weight is and where they need to focus. And in the past, I think it was more difficult to have a conversation to the value of the
It will be,
grant application.
I think what we're talking about, and we don't have a quorum, so I don't want to repeat.
I know, but I'm giving you feedback.
And we did talk, and I am going to do that. It will be similar or more of a same feel as what we've done with the Community Foundation.
That's
Is to
right,
be
that's
able
what
to
I'm getting at.
evaluate and bring back that information and then, look at
Expedite.
how it was valued by each individual member and then have a conversation. And I think, again, I want to have a conversation about our priorities with regard to what the mission is. Is transportation more important?
Right.
Is food hunger more? I mean, where do we want to, because the money is so limited, I just want to make sure that we feel good about where we're allocating
And
those funds for
absolutely.
success.
I
Yeah.
think we discovered
Yeah.
that some of the scoring was right in alignment, and we could draw consensus
Yep.
about how we make those decisions.
Yep.
And I think it would help the group,
I do too.
so,
So we are looking at that.
We had scoring,
but we didn't, it was, some people did it, and
Right.
some people didn't.
right, did we do, I was trying to remember, did we do scoring?
We did.
In both years that I was on the commission, or just
Right.
the first
first
year?
year.
I really
The first year, yeah.
went through. It was
The
just,
fir- right.
it was just 20.
And then some people had some issues with scoring, but I think that,
Yeah.
it's a nice guide, as we did. We found out that it brought us kind of closer together and consolidated our discussion as
It's-
opposed to being all over the
It's
place.
less subjective.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we didn't have our February meeting.
Right.
Which is when we had those discussions, because this February would be more talking about where we're at, what our mission is, what we're looking at. This meeting was about really reviewing the application packet, doing all that, because the LOI meeting, or the pre-application meeting, is really just the pre-application. Because that takes some time. And then the allocations, that's all we have time for on that day, because it's a full day
It is.
of
And-
meetings.
But you're right.
So,
We may have to have a meeting in between, not sure, but that might be an issue and we'll figure it out. And maybe I'm wrong, but I make an assumption that if people agree to serve, they agree to serve, right?
Yes.
Right. And we did have problems, I don't know what it was, but I've heard from several people who never got notification. So that obviously something happened there, I don't know. And it's our board members, so we know we have the right emails. I don't know what happened.
So maybe just asking people to confirm their attendance
Yeah.
before a meeting, and then if you don't
Oh,
hear,
no.
you know there's an issue.
Mama will call. I will, for a while. This is too important, so I'll make sure that we do that so that, you know, we get a consensus and send it out. But, you know, bumps, challenges, it's all new, right? Not for you, it's
Well,
not new.
and, you know, the bylaws, that's not on here that we were sent, the beginning of the number of members and the, who's serving, very confusing.
Mhm.
I have no idea what the number of people are, and it was confusing in that beginning part, so it'd be nice to get that clarified.
There was less clarity, I mean, there was needed more clarity about the base number of who's gonna be on.
It was more
Okay.
clear in the past than this one was.
And so,
We're also updating the website too,
And also,
to reflect the new bylaws, so.
and it would have been nice if the entire commission was included in that meeting on that. I think it sends a little bit of a message to those of us
Meeting
that
on
are
what?
not, on the bylaws that were approved.
It was done at public health. The bylaws were approved at a public health.
So that's something that's always been a discussion here at the commission and get
But it was
feedback.
wasn't it, am I misunderstanding, wasn't the bylaws that were presented at committee, the bylaws the
No,
commission did?
No,
no.
we had no discussion on the bylaws
There's
because we
never
were
been a
waiting.
discussion here of the bylaws.
Because we knew that there was gonna be a change in the makeup of the county board, so we were waiting
We-
for the February meeting. We, the
Deferred
commission,
it, yes. Deferred it.
we were waiting for the February meeting
That's right.
to have a discussion once the county board had decided how many members, because we can't,
We
you know,
can't.
that's Mike's decision, how many members are gonna serve on the committee with the smaller county board. So,
Yeah, I apologize,
Yeah.
I was
I mean, we
unaware.
deferred
Didn't
that
know.
decision until the new.
yeah,
We'll
but that is
try.
something that the commission has always been a part of,
All right,
so.
well, they've been approved, they're here, we'll try and make it clearer. We'll work
Yeah,
on
it was
that.
it was just kind of weird the way it was worded, so,
Yeah, unaware.
yeah.
So, we've gone through that, member comments, we got member comments, good member comments. Anyone else have any comments? Rhonda?
Yeah, it's a question to all of you.
Yeah.
All right, so this is because of a state statute, all right?
Correct.
Who's the person at the state level, main position, who monitors all of these?
There's not.
There's, it's a permissive, it's a permissive statute. It gives counties the authority to implement a senior services tax levy.
Levy.
Mhm.
And then the county is the one who is the oversight. The statute's permissive, not every county has one.
Right.
No. We're
I
very
know I live in
fortunate.
Kane County.
There you go.
You don't have it in King County.
I
We're
think
very
we're the only
fortunate.
one, aren't we?
We're about one of the only ones, and I think we should feel, I hate to use the word fortunate, but I
Blessed.
think we're on the cutting edge of having this levy to have this fund available, but it's not that way in other counties.
I think
They
it's
don't
greater
do
than-
It's like mental health
It's
boards.
greater than
Some people
that.
have mental
Edge.
health boards, some people do
Right.
not. It's just,
I
You
think
know,
that McHenry County is fabulous in having all of this for their residents, okay? And everywhere I go, I praise McHenry, and I do not say the same thing for Kane, okay? And,
boards are different.
It's being recorded. Just teasing. I'm just teasing, I know you don't.
No, and I would only ask that as you note that again is decisions made by board members elected
Mhm.
by their constituents, and sometimes it's a different message and a different
Different
mission. I mean,
priorities.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
just is.
Well, in this one too, going back to the history, really it was Senior Services Associates that really pushed and was behind getting this levy passed.
Yeah, and putting
I
it
mean,
on the
they
ballot.
really, they
And-
were the
yeah,
ones
And
that,
also, look
And
at our
they're in
numbers.
King County.
Right, and look at our numbers. Our senior numbers go up
Yeah.
every year.
Yeah.
So it's a recognized need, I think. I don't know what
Increased
Kane's numbers are. I don't know.
well, they would know.
Yeah.
King County would, I mean, Senior Services would, because they serve King County. but-
You know what? The data that I will send you has it broken down based on county, from Kane County to Will. It will give you a picture of seniors in each county, and, I mean, it's very interesting stuff.
I'm a data.
So as
wall.
soon as I
love
get
data.
it, I will forward it to you, and I
Please.
think it would be of interest to everybody to see that comparison of what we're doing in this county to what other counties are doing, and what is the need.
It's
I mean,
it's
the
a story
demographic-
for communications.
What?
I'm just teasing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
No.
missed it.
I keep looking. We should tell people about that. Anything else good for the order? Seeing none, the best motion of the day, can I have a motion to adjourn? Paula, seconded by Matt. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.
But it's
I saw you
interesting
move.
stuff,
Yeah,
like these
yeah.
things.
You always know I accept. I don't necessarily bring the motion out, but I'm ready to go.
Region. And that's good for us to know.
Well, I'm still drinking coffee. I've been drinking coffee since 5.
Well, you don't have to, Trevor, really.
There's a new sheet that we have that back.
You're
Retired.
retiring? Retired. No?
Not really.
Changing shifts.
Yeah, well, I'll go back to days and nights starting Monday. I was just filling in for the early morning guy, but
Good seeing you.
Good seeing you, yes.
Do you have
Yeah.
the, do you have the,
I still work.
I'm sure you will.
We get notifications, they take They get all the businesses, they get Amazon, they get Walmart, and they give us no recognition. So I'm going to attend a meeting as
You're on it, and you're from the board, but you weren't like on the board anymore, right?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, I didn't get mine either, but it didn't matter. I had, you
No, I
and I had, so I didn't, but I didn't
I
get.